I was 11 and had just moved to a new area in the Appalachian Mountain Range, Mount Cheaha in Alabama, for my dad's job, and into a genuinely old house. The house was built in 1940 and had minimal restoration and updating. Like the carpets in all the rooms were still an orange shag and the walls were either wood panels or baby blue. I know a lot of disposition, but just bear with me. This house was in a good neighborhood, but it had a ton of wooded area in between homes. And I don't mean just a plot of trees. No, it was truly woods, and they were usually really pretty. Interesting fact, not even 50 feet from my window, you could see where native tribes lived. And it was widely known that we lived, the neighborhood, in an old Creek native land area. One night I had just turned off my TV in my room and was about to turn on my radio. I wasn't allowed to sleep with my TV on, but could have my radio playing whatever music I wanted. So turned off my TV and got up to close my door and turn off my light. I get back in bed and turn on my radio and I hear my sister, 5 at the time, get up and go to my parents' room for whatever reason. I didn't hear her go back into her room, but she was also usually opening my door because she was terrified to sleep in her own room at that house. In our last house prior to this move, she never had an issue. But this house was different up until this night. I thought it was just ambience. I strangely fell right to sleep, which I never did and still don't do. I woke up later to my door opening. I wasn't usually scared of things like that because I knew early on that sometimes air pressure can cause doors to open, and considering I could close my door all the way, I didn't think much of it. My dad's job forced him to get up and be out of the house by 3 a.m. most mornings, so it wasn't a rare occurrence to wake up to my door being open. This time was different though. When I woke up, my door cricked open. Again, not rare for an old house, but I saw a hand and arm opening the door. I thought it was my sister since the arm was lower than where my parents would have been, so I said, go back to your room, nothing is going to get you. Something my parents said to her frequently. The hand lets go of my doorknob and the arm pulls back. I then asked, "Can you close my door back, please?" And no response. Then out of nowhere, my light turns on. Our bathroom light turns on too. Then my light turned off and flickered back on, then stayed off, but the bathroom stayed on. Then I see a head peek around my door. Just a shadow in my eyes though. Then I see this shadow that is about the height of my 5YO sister with long hair walk into my room. Then I hear a chuckle and then it dissipated. It vanished. I wasn't one to wake up my parents, but that night I jumped out of bed, ran into my parents' room and cried. That's one experience that I've tried to make sense of, but nothing makes sense. I just need someone to tell me what they think happened. Note, my girlfriend, who is from Chicago, her brother, had a very, very similar dream, and us talking about it got us to befriend one another. So does anyone else have an experience similar to this? When I was a teenager, I attended a Catholic convent school for girls. The school celebrated its centenary in 1989, and as you can imagine, the 100-year-old plus school building had its fair share of spookiness. Its most striking feature was a creepy old wooden tower which served as a vantage point with a view of the entire school grounds. The school even had its own ghost story. Apparently one day many years ago, 2 students were seen climbing up to the top of the tower. One of the girls fell from the tower to her death. Whether she was pushed by her companion remained a mystery. Suspiciously, when they found her body, she was missing a gold necklace which had been a gift from her mother. The patch of grass where she landed never grew grass again, but remained a patch of dirt from that day forward. Legend has it, if you go up to the top of tower on the anniversary of the girl's death, you will feel the ghostly hands of her mother around your neck, feeling for the girl's gold necklace. Superstition dictates that you never wear a gold necklace when climbing the tower, lest the ghost of the girl's mother takes you for the thief and pushes you off when you reach the top. Back in my early 20s, I worked for a vintage clothing store in a trendy clothing district. The store occupied a 2-story shop front on the high street, which was built around the turn of the century. I was employed at the shop as the assistant manager. My manager would leave at 5 p.m. and I would close the store at 5:30 p.m. and count the day's takings. Usually during the day we would play music, but at closing time I would turn the music off so I could count in peace. After a few weeks I started to notice something unusual. Roughly around 5:35 p.m. every day, I would hear footsteps on the staircase. I went to take a look, but no one was there. I returned to my counting. The next day, around 5:35 p.m., again I could hear footsteps on the stairs. I thought it was weird because the stairs had been carpeted sometime in the 90s, and yet the footsteps sounded like leather shoes on wooden floorboards. I heard the footsteps countless times. I told my manager. He said he had also heard footsteps on the stairs, but in the morning before he opened the store. After a few months of working there, I began exploring a disused mezzanine floor in the building. The area had bright orange 70s wallpaper and polished boards. It appeared the floor had been a private residence above the shop in the 70s. I started to wonder. Was I hearing the ghostly footsteps of a long-deceased shop owner, trudging down the staircase of a morning, then back upstairs in the afternoon? Maybe looking forward to a well-earned cup of tea after a long day. I think after 50 years he deserves to retire. One night, my mom, my aunt, and I were sitting around the dinner table. The kids were playing in the theater room, which was just off a small hallway. We were chatting about nothing in particular. Then, for whatever reason, we were all looking toward the hallway doorway. We all saw something. It was so weird. It was there and then gone. I was young, maybe 15 or 16. I was so shocked I sat silently thinking only I saw it. But then my mom spoke up, followed by my aunt. I then started just bawling my eyes out because I saw it too. I wasn't scared, just overwhelmed, I guess. Something visited us all. It didn't feel scary, but it was a figure, dark, shadowy, big enough to fill the doorway. We all still tell the story, exactly the same way. My questions though, why mid-conversation were we all looking in that direction? 2 people had to turn. What was it? Why did it want to be seen? When I was age 7 to 9, we moved to a small farmhouse with my father's new girlfriend. We did some work on the house to add another room for one of her daughters. I got the old room in the back of the house. I was put off pretty early hearing noises, not just at night, so I did my best to play outside and not in my room. I do remember a few times I did, and it absolutely terrified me to the point I convinced my dad to let me stay with my grandma all summer. I was playing in my room like a child, running around like a hyper kid when I came to a dead stop. I felt something hold me in place for about 10 or 15 seconds. I was crying and trying to scream, but nothing came out but a choked whisper. And then it felt like I was released and I fell forward on my face since I was on one foot mid-run when it happened. No one believed me except the daughter that got moved out of my room to the added-on room. She never told me anything, but she believed me though. Then, a few months after that, I took to sleeping with the covers over my head because I was afraid of seeing whatever would hold me in place when I'd play too hard in that room. But one night I felt hands under me pick me up, then just drop me on the floor. I stayed there frozen for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. After that, I just stayed out of the room. I'd sneak out and sleep in the living room couch and act like I fell asleep watching cartoons before school. After we moved, it stopped IDK what it was, but it sure as hell scared me. I know this is a mess. LOL, sorry.